Hello, 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 and welcome everyone to our lore live stream themed around Guardians of the Rift. As you can see, we are joined by Mod Druid behind the scenes, and we have the wonderful Mod Ed with us. Unfortunately, Mod Errol is ill, so she was going to join us, but we do have the wonderful Ed that's obviously completely lore focused and the big brain when it comes to all of these things. So Ed, how are you doing?
Well, that is the question, isn't it? Because this week has been quite a week, because this was Game Jam week, and for the first time in quite a long time, there's a lot of us going into the office. We're meant to be teaming up and doing this Game Jam. And we got in on Monday, and yeah, everything went great. And then Tuesday morning, we get a message from Mod Lenny. He's tested positive. So like, oh dear, I'd better do a test as well. I've tested positive. So this week has been a bit of a disastrous game jam for us because we ended up losing half of our team within the first day. But despite that, I'm doing all right. I'm still here, still loring away.
Good stuff. Yeah, it's unfortunate about the COVID situation, especially since Game Jam itself. It's been quite nice actually. It's been the first time I've worked in the office for a full week, and it's been really nice just having that like interaction with everybody.
Yeah, I managed the first time in 2 years. I managed a day working in the office before it all went wrong.
Yeah, everyone was so hyped. There were so many people on a Monday, and then you see the number like split in half coming on the Tuesday. All right, cool. So, yes, we have been gathering the community's lore questions throughout the last few weeks, and I can't wait to hear all of the answers coming from you, Ed. So, but before we jump into that, let's go through this week's announcement. So, exclamation mark game update. There is no game update this week, as our team is taking part in the Game Jam, where they come together to ideate and work on really cool projects across the world of Old School. Stay tuned for a dedicated live stream talking about our Game Jam projects if you're interested. I'm sure you've seen over many mods socials over the last few days, and a couple from the Old School RuneScape official Twitter themselves. We've been teasing some of the ideas there, so you can find them all under hashtag OSRS Game Jam. Exclamation mark account security. We're committed to leveling up our account security and services over the next year. Find a helpful summary recap of the account security stream written up in a blog format here. And finally, exclamation mark board game. A RuneScape board game is being launched on Kickstarter. So get ready to master skills, meet your favorite NPCs, and explore the world of Gillinor as we bring RuneScape to the tabletop for the first time ever. Sign up to be among the first to hear about the campaign to bring your next favorite board game to life. Okay, so just before the questions, we've got a couple of bits of UGC to go through. So the first one is titled Zora Vorkath. Very, very cool piece. It kind of looks like a playing card.
Is that a game jam idea?
Oh, maybe.
Playing cards.
Maybe this is from one of the mods themselves. Who knows? Awesome. So the next one we have is from PBRD7, which is some modelled knights. Very, very cool. I love seeing all their models. The PBRD, if you're watching.
Sir Brad.
Yes.
Survivor and Sir Brad. Fair enough.
Very, very good. Maybe some future Fally Knights. The next one we have is from Magically Declined. The artwork name is Never Go Back. It's very, very trippy. I like it. That's like poster material. I'd have that in my room, I think. 100%. Okay, the next one we have is called Wooden Runes. Very, very cool. And the final one we have is Ancestral Doggo. Oh, look at that. Look at
saving
that.
the best to last.
Exactly. I mean, a lot of dog themes this week.
Yeah, I was going to say, is this also a game jam? It's just people sneaking in their game jam pictures.
I mean, I can't disclose that information, Ed, I'm afraid. I'm not at liberty to say, or everyone will have to wait for the stream that comes out. So, very, very cool stuff. All right, I suppose we should get onto some of the questions, talk about while we're here. So, first off, let's go through some questions about Guardians of the Rift and Temple of the Eye. If you guys haven't played that quest or the mini game yet, please go and do it. They are both great pieces of content.
Do it now in the next 5 minutes before we start spoiling all of it.
Yeah, you've got about 2 minutes to do it, so if you can speed run it, go for it. Cool. So the first question we have is from Peachy Keen. I'm just going to put a spoiler warning out now, like spoiler warning throughout this. Okay, so just bear that in mind. But why is there no portal for Astral, Wrath, or Soul runes in the Temple of the Eye?
So those are the 3 altars that the Saradominists at the time didn't have access to. The Astral altar was in the way on Lunar Isle, so no one else could get to it. The Wrath altar was already lost at that point, and the Soul altar was, well, for anyone who doesn't know, the Soul altar, the true Soul altar, not the one on Korend, is actually deep beneath Menethos, so it was also not available to the Saradominists, so that's why those 3 aren't in there. That's for lore excuse anyway. There's a gameplay excuse for it. The Soul altar doesn't exist, so
Yeah, maybe we'll see those crop up one day. The one beneath Menethos, maybe. Who knows? Cool. All right. Arceus library card asks, how can we breathe and walk around if the Temple of the Eye is located deep underwater?
So it's in like this big magic bubble. Is the best way to describe it. It says, if you search for Rewards Rift, there's a chance you can get a journal which mentions it's this like weird magical bubble, and sometimes the fish fall through it. But yeah, like the Saradominists, they used their magic to create a big giant bubble to put this temple in.
I always imagined it was a bit like Sandy Cheek's house from SpongeBob. Yeah.
Well, I hear there might be a little SpongeBob connection, so I'm told somewhere in the content.
Maybe those who haven't seen it yet should definitely have a look. Cool. All right. The next question we have is from Panther, who asks, was the Temple of the Eye always underwater, or did it sink at some point, like the Everlight near the Icene graveyard?
It was always underwater, hence a bubble just mentioned. That certain artifact in there that I'm sure we're going to have plenty of questions on soon. Saradomin and his motley crew did not want anyone knowing about that, even their own his own followers. So the temple was built underwater to keep it nice and hidden. Didn't work, of course, but nice attempt.
I mean, we wouldn't have Guardians of the Rift otherwise, which would be a shame. So, even if we might force that hand, that's fine. It's fine. Awesome. All right. Mercury Head asks, before there were numerous plot holes regarding runecrafting, namely the burning of the Wizard's Tower timeline with a forgotten runecrafting art, how fast ZMI found out about runecrafting post the Rune Mysteries quest, and how Aubrey came across a teleportation spell in the first place. It's come to my attention that these plot holes are pretty much resolved. So could you briefly summarize the change to the lore, namely from the Rune Mysteries quest and the Abyss related content? So quite a lengthy one for you, Ed, but
Yeah, plot holes. Nobody likes plot holes. It's really unfortunate as well because it's in like one of the earliest quests. But yeah, you sort of like before you would go into like Wizard's Tower and talk to Wizard, and he talks about how runecrafting is this long lost art, never like been lost for hundreds upon hundreds of years. And then you literally talk to him again in the same quest, like literally a few lines of dialogue later, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we do actually have the secrets to runecrafting. We're just not telling anyone." So it was a bit of a mess, and we had to. While doing Temple of the Eye, we released some like changes to Rune Mysteries and Enter the Abyss. Not necessarily because they were needed for Temple of the Eye, like that's sort of telling a different story, but it made sense to do them while we were like working on some wizard-related content. And we tried to keep it as close as possible to the original quests. Like, definitely don't want to be changing all quests unnecessarily, especially such an early game one that's so iconic. So it's mainly just like dialogue changes, and basically we just what we went with was the lore that is prevalent everywhere else in the game, apart from in a couple of lines of dialogue in that quest. And that lore is that the Wizard's Tower was burnt down, sort of like around the middle of the 5th Age. I believe it's 70 years prior to the current date, so not centuries ago, only 70 years ago. And rather than runecrafting knowledge being lost when the tower burnt down, it was just knowledge on the Essence Mine. So those are like the two big changes that needed making to make everything else make sense again as to why runecrafting exists, but some guy in the Wizard's Tower claims it doesn't. Yeah, they were the main two changes made, and then just various other bits like tidying up dialogue and stuff like that to sort of like fit into that.
Yeah, I mean, if we would have made massive changes to that iconic quest, like you said, Ed, I think that would have caused
Yes, interesting. That's the route that they went down in RuneScape, because they were sort of faced a very similar problem of like, this quest just doesn't make sense. None of this lore makes sense whatsoever. It's like, again, like you talk to a guy and he contradicts himself 5 times in like a single line of dialogue as to what's actually happened. Like, whenever you get contradictions like that, which you do get a lot in a game like RuneScape, it's been going on for so long, had lots of different developers. Lore often contradicts each other, and what you can often do is you can often sort of like get away with it by saying, oh, it's different interpretations. This guy was wrong. He was incorrect. He believes something different. And you can actually make some quite fun things out of that. We have actually done that in the past, sort of like, oh, these two things contradict each other. Let's find a way to make that work. But when it's the same guy contradicting himself like multiple times in the same quest, it just, yeah, it doesn't work, unfortunately. But yeah, we were very keen to make sure that the quest still plays exactly the same. Like, maintaining that feel of the early game is super important, so that's why we didn't choose to do what RuneScape did to like replace the quest completely.
Yeah, again, especially with something that's like, you know, one of the very. I'm trying to think how what order it came out. It must be in the first 10, right? Unless I'm mistaken.
I think it might have been a little bit later. Definitely, it came out with runecrafting. It was meant to be the one that sort of like gave the backing on the story of runecrafting, I think. So whenever runecrafting came out,
that's still very. I mean, there's Guardians of the Rift now, so there's at least a bit more of a fun method, you know. Cool. All right. So Drew asked us next. Can you tell us more about the Guardians and them referenced in the diary? Perhaps who originally created them?
I think this is referring to that diary I mentioned earlier, the one you can pull out of a rift in the minigame. So the Guardians in the Temple were created by the Justiciar of the Lion to protect the temple after the rift was opened. None of it's particularly spoilery. I think it's all mentioned like in-game this, but yeah, just in case anyone missed that, like the Guardians were specifically created to protect Gielinor from that rift.
Yeah, they seem to be doing a pretty good job with it. You know, little help from us, but you know, aside from that, cool. All right, Belle Delphine asks, considering the Stone of Jazz is actually brought up in this quest, can we make the connection that this is finally confirmation we're beginning the Elder God and Majorat storyline finally?
Oh, we're starting to get fun now. We're starting to mention. I wouldn't say Stone of Jas. I don't know what a Stone of Jas is. The quest was about something called an eye. I don't know nothing about no stone. If this was the start of a Majorat storyline, I wouldn't announce it on stream anyway, would I? But I guess what I can say is like, you know, this wasn't just to massively troll everyone. Like, this is like setting some things up for the future. Like we knew how important the first appearance of the Stone of Jas in Old School was. Like, it's something that's been hinted at for a very long time. Like, even before Old School's around, the first references to the stone, like, you know, back in 2006, I think it was, when they first started appearing. Like, it's been building up for a long time. Obviously, while Gothic Sleeps in RuneScape, like, one of the biggest, most iconic quests ever. So, yeah, it wasn't just a throwaway, oh, this would be cool. Like, there is definitely more plans there, but but you don't necessarily have to involve a Marja at all of them. The fun thing about the Stone of Jas and all that stuff is it's been everywhere. As for the Elder Gods, not in Old School. I think I spoke a bit about this on the last lore stream I was on. The Elder Gods, they do exist in the Old School universe. They're heads for stone, but we're not planning on creating any storyline revolving around them like they did in RuneScape. We're very, very keen for gods and Elder Gods to never directly appear in Old School. When I say directly appeared, like, there might still be like a few things here and there. So, like, in Song of the Elves, for example, you see sort of like these memories of Seren. Obviously, you see the fragment of her, and maybe some of the stuff like what was done with Ritual of Amarjat, where it had a flashback cutscene where you briefly saw Saradomin. Maybe things like that we might end up doing, but there's no plans to ever directly introduce the gods and Elder Gods. These are these mysterious beings that have long since left the world, and a lot of our quests and stories, including the ones that we're planning to tell soon, are going to be about uncovering what they sort of left behind rather than interacting with them directly.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll probably speak a bit more about that in the next question. Just out of nowhere, just seeing Jagex, Mod Kieran subscribe with a Prime sub that's like thrown me off completely. So the next question
Mod
we have.
Kieran is very, very keen on lore. He's like, lore stream, I'm in.
You can have my sub. Right, so Hemsky asks, introducing the Stone of Jas, coming up again, okay, to OSRS implies that we can continue the Majorat storyline. Can we see Guthix die once more? How about the Fist of Guthix minigame? That's not beating around the bush there.
Yeah, so I guess I kind of already answered this in the last question, but I guess this one's a bit more specific. Like, Guthix dying was obviously the thing that was the catalyst for the gods returning and properly kicking off the Elder Gods storyline. So it is that point that a lot of things changed. So that is a thing that won't happen in Old School. So many other things that have happened in RuneScape are fair game. You know, we've borrowed from them at times, they've borrowed from us at times. We'll keep doing that. But yeah, Guthix dying is that top pinnacle point that, well, I shouldn't say this will never happen in Old School, because, like, I don't have complete ownership of the lore of this game. It'd be unfair if it's just like, go, no, this is all mine. Like, I'm not letting you do any of this. Like, so maybe I get outvoted on this at some point in the future, or like someone else takes over things and decides to go in a different direction. But I think at least for now, I can say with like relative confidence that there is no desire to kill Guthix. Like, the stuff they did in RuneScape, like, I'm not knocking what they did. Like, it's absolutely fantastic, some of those storylines. Some of my favourite quests in either version of the game happened after Guthix died. But I think, if anything, that's all the more reason for us not to do it. It's important that RuneScape and Old School have their own separate identities at this point, including in narrative and stuff like that. So I think we should, make that a hard rule, personally, that Guthix doesn't die, the gods never return, the Elder Gods never become a big thing. Fist of Guthix, I mean, lore-wise, it exists in Old School. Obviously, you can't go there, but it's part of the lore, so yeah, no reason why the minigame itself couldn't be added.
Who knows? Maybe I know that's on the top of the list in terms of things to be ported. I know it's very, very high up there. So no, who knows? Who knows? We'll see. I can just imagine you did by the, if that was the case and you owned all the lore in your, late 90s, retired, and still consulting on all the lore.
Yeah. If by then they are still asking me for help with the lore, I will still fight the fight that gods should not appear in Old School.
Right, there you go. This is legally binding now. You set yourself up for life, Ed, now. Cool, okay. Sergeant Heno Garvey asks, was there a particular reason Saradomin had the Stone of Jas hidden underwater south of the coast of Mauritania? Was it because it was closer to Halaval at the time?
Yeah, exactly that. At the time when the stone or eye was in that temple, that was before Mauritania was taken over by the vampires, it was still a Saradominist region called Halavale, so it made sense for Saradomin to hide the stone in a place that was surrounded by his supporters, but as we mentioned in that other question earlier, he still wasn't entirely trusting even of his own followers, hence why the temple was hidden underwater, so even many Saradominists didn't actually know it was there.
Awesome stuff. Saradone, the kind of guy always looking over his shoulder, I imagine. Just not quite sure. All right, maybe I am cringe. I hope that's not thrown into me, but it probably would. When exactly did Draken get the stone in the timeline? Before or after Saradomin took it, or after the God Wars even? And can we assume that the Temple of the Eye, after Temple of the Eye, they moved the stone to where the Fist of Guthix is at?
Yes, the timeline is quite vague, some of it intentionally so, but yeah, for that bit, that is the order it happened in. It was in the temple. After the temple was attacked and the rift was opened, it wasn't safe to keep it there anymore, so it got moved to the Fist of Guthix, and then later it was taken back to Mauritania, but at that point it was by Zamorakians rather than Saradominists, and it was entrusted to Draken.
Awesome. Okay. Dolphra asked, is there a Stone of Jazz related reason the Saradominists, there we go, got it there, included altars to most of the runecrafting altars in the Guardians of the Rift Temple, or is it just because of the stone's involvement with runecrafting?
So it's sort of alluded to in the quest, but the temple was originally, it was purely built just as a place to guard the stone. The portals to the altars actually came later. They were built once the Abyssal Rift had been opened to make it easier to defend against the Abyss, and hence that's why they get used in the minigame.
Awesome. All right, we have another question from Arceus Library Cards. Is on it? I want to see if he's. Oh, he's got another one. Okay, interesting. There's at least two from Arceus Library. Okay, the Justiciar Zachariah, hope I'm pronouncing that right, was tasked with defending the Eye, but we assumedly killed him during Mage Arena 2, so we could have an imbued cape. Are there any plans to link the Order of the Wizards questline into a future Mage Arena quest? Or will this just be an Easter egg crossover?
No plans to really do any more there. So yeah, I guess just an Easter egg. But I don't know. Like, he's a quite powerful dude. Did we really kill him during Mage Arena 2? Maybe we just stole his what was it? His hand? Hand we take from him? Maybe we just stole his hand and ran off, and maybe he'll come back later. So yeah, no plans for the moment. But never say never.
Just sums up quite anything old school that, if you describe that quest, what do you do? Or you just go steal a guy's hand? That's all you need to know. Mercury Head is next, and they ask, is the Dark Altar another Elder artifact? Are the Tuskarl like the Dragonkin in that they are the guardians of an Elder artifact?
I mean, I'm not gonna directly give away massive lore reveals like that, am I?
Why not, Ed? Why not?
The Dark Altar and the Tuskarl are both gonna keep playing a very important part in the current storyline. What can I say here, without giving too much away? I guess I can say what isn't correct, and then let people theorize on what might be correct. So the Tuskarl, they're not like the Dragonkin in the sense that they're not guarding an Elder artifact, Dark Altar or otherwise. They have their own motives, not directly tied to their. It's really hard to say something without saying something.
How much time do you need?
So the Tuskarl, and this isn't spoilers because they say this in the Scent of Arceus. The Tuskarl believe they are serving a higher power. Believe they are that higher power hasn't directly instructed them to do any of what they're doing. They just believe it's in the best interest of said higher power. And as for the Dark Altar, Okay. For Dark Altar is not an Elder artifact. I'll say that again, like just to make sure we're all understanding this correctly. The way I'm wording this and the way I'm pronouncing this, like Dark Altar is not an Elder artifact. There's a bit of fun speculation for you on what I mean by that.
Interesting. Okay, all right. Well, you heard it here first. And speaking of the Dark Altar, we have another question. Why is the Dark Altar so unguarded after the events of the Ascent of Arceus? Is it because Tis is sufficiently powerful enough to repel potential entities seeking its power for the wrong reason?
Yeah, like the Lord Arceus and his crew are not doing a very good job, are they? It's like, oh, yes, someone sabotaged the Dark Altar. Should we do anything about that? Oh, we've stopped it now. Or do they do it again? Yeah, probably be alright. But no, I guess the excuse, I won't even deny it, I'm just making an excuse at this point, is that, yeah, like there is still like members of House Arceus relatively close to the altar keeping an eye on things.
Awesome stuff. Yeah, I highly doubt they'll leave it completely unguarded. That would be probably a misfortunate, step to do. All right. Phantom Ends ask, are there going to be further storylines that are spun off from Temple of the Eye? Opens up a very interesting storyline in the Wizard's Tower versus ZMI, something which hasn't been explored a lot even in RS3, as well as dropping some hints that are very impactful in regards to other series like Vampires, Mage Arena, Elder Gods, Zaros, and Fremenic.
Yeah, this was one of the most fun quests I've ever worked on, like with Temple of the Eye, just because of that list at the end. It's like so many different tie-ins to various other storylines, like not directly part of any of them, but with little links to all of them. So yeah, there's definitely going to be more happening here. Hopefully, like more than one different thing. Hopefully, like a few different directions. Like obviously, we talked a bit earlier about like what the first appearance of the Stone of Jas actually means, and as mentioned here, there's also the fun little conflict between Order of Wizards and the ZMI. So, like, yeah, there's lots of fun things to explore.
Cool. All right. Arceus Library card back at it again. With the color of Person's skin is a yellow shade similar to the sea slugs of Witchhaven. Was this an intentional design decision for a potential hint to the sea slug quest, or simply an oversight when designing her to look slightly different, hint that she wasn't who she appeared to be?
So this is another one where I have to like say what it's not rather than what it is, so we don't spoil anything that we shouldn't be spoiling. But there's no connection to the sea slugs, but her character design is still intentional, but it's not connected to sea slugs.
Okay, well, we've got another question on Person from Sonic. Was my Person our first direct contact with Sliske, since her name is an anagram for I am Serpent?
I mean, obviously, I'm not going to answer a question like that. Like, this is. I think people are being very unfair on her. Like, just because she's got the name she has doesn't mean she's like some evil Marjarat. Like, I think that's very mean. This is also.
Yeah.
That said, this is fun. Like, I love this stuff because back in, I think it was like sort of like the 2009, like 2011 period, like Marjarat were the big thing in RuneScape, and most of them at that point, like we knew where they all were, like we knew who they all were, and there was like, I think there was like two or three that people didn't quite know like who they were. Like there was Sliske and Bilrak, and people didn't know who they were. So just every single piece of content that came out in that period, it's Sliske, it's a Marjarat, without fail. If we've now reached that point in old school, then yeah, that's what I'm here for. So maybe Person Sliske, maybe she's not. maybe everyone's Sliskay, maybe no one's Sliskay. That's the fun stuff about this kind of
Ooh.
thing. I guess on a more serious note though, like thinking back to that period, like sort of like 2009 to like 2011, there was some funny but maybe quite silly theories, and like it reached a point where every single person, like I say, of any note was Sliskay or Bilrak or one of the others. Like I remember like when Nomad's Requiem came out, I think it was, or maybe it was actually when Soul Wars came out, one of the two. I remember for a fair while, it wasn't like just like a sneaky edit that then got quickly undone. For a fair while, the RuneScape wiki like had it written down like on their page, like this is canon that this guy is a Marjrat. It's like nothing in game said he was a Marjrat, but they were so convinced. Like, so let's not get carried away here. Like, I'm not saying who is and isn't a Marjrat. Like, maybe someone is, maybe someone isn't. But be very careful of just making assumptions without having all the information, because things might not be quite what you think.
I mean, Master Tenyani says the real Sliskay is the friends we made along the way. So, you know.
That is okay. Here's another little spoiler for you. Then that joke may be actually one of the most revealing things that's been said on this stream so far, and I'm not even the one that said it.
Oh, okay, okay. I'm so interested now. Okay, all right. Well, we'll move on with that then. Leave that on a little bit of a cliffhanger. Mercury Head.
This is going to be great. It's going to be great because there's so many people out there. There was quite a few of like the wiki guys in particular who like love like trying to piece all this stuff together. You know that meme of the guy with like he's got like all the like the strings going across the wall, trying to link everything together. Like after this stream, there's going to be so much of that. And the great thing is like I've said quite a few things here, very jokingly, and some of them were just complete and utter rubbish because I do that a lot. Some of them might have been serious, and like people are now going to have fun of trying to work out which is which.
I feel like you've had quite a fun time before stream, just reading these questions and being like, how can I throw as many spanners in the works to existing theories as possible?
Like I said, this is like again back in sort of like the fondest RuneScape memories for me. Like maybe come like a little bit later than quite like a lot of people. Like when it comes to old school, like because for me it was very much like 2009 to 2011 period, because I was very much one of those lore fanatics sat there trying to work out what all of this meant, like looking at every like Paul Gower's little like hints that he's posted on the forums and reading like every little stuff thing in the news post, trying to work out what the hell it all meant. So if I can now torment people as I was once tormented by the Gowers, then I'm all for it, because it's so fun. Like on both sides, it's fun. It's fun to create all of this stuff, but it's also really fun to speculate on it.
Yeah, I think we're definitely doing a lot more in terms of teasing certain content. So maybe we'll take a page out of Paul's book and use that in some of our upcoming stuff. But you know, who knows? All right, Mercury Head asks. This is the last Guardians of the Rift / Temple of the Eye related question. How were the entrances to the Blood, Cosmic, and Death Altars destroyed? The entrances were destroyed by the runecrafting crusades, yet it is very implausible that the Fremeniks managed to access the location of these altars.
Yeah, the Fremenik only destroyed most of them. The rest were destroyed, like, in other ways. I don't think we've ever actually specified how. Like, the Blood Altar was most likely destroyed. It's probably at some point during the the war for Halavale when the vampires took over. Similarly, the Death Altar was probably destroyed like at some point in all the Elven conflicts. Cosmic's a bit more interesting. I don't actually have an answer to that one as to how that would have been destroyed. We've not really explored much like Fairy and Zenaris lore, so it might be a fun one for us to consider when we come to doing more of that stuff.
I mean, this is the thing now. Is that the case that we haven't explored it, or secretly has Modern been working in the background, really diving deep into stuff like this? Like, I don't know now, and I
think I think it was in a Gazette a while back when we talked about ideation. I do have a pitch for Fairy Tale 3, like a conclusion to the trilogy, but it does not go into detail on the Cosmic Altar. So maybe I'll have to go back and revisit my pitch and make it about the Cosmic Altar instead.
Okay, okay, that's good. That's good. All right, so we're going to go on to some general questions. First one is from Sunil, and they ask, "What is Mod Ed's favorite piece of lore or storyline, and why?"
It's really hard to pick just one. I think my absolute favorite, I'd probably go with the vampires and the Mayaki. That kind of story is sort of like right up my alley. It's very, very like character focused, but at the same time has a lot of like mystery behind it, a lot of like deep lore going into like the history of this region and the weird creatures there and stuff like that. So it's sort of got like all the things I love, like lots of things to be digging away at, trying to work out what it all means, but at the same time, like lots of very personal stuff as well. Brings a tear to your eye. Some of the moments in those storylines. Um, that's probably my favorite. I also do really like the Majorat. A lot of that one, it's sort of like more about sort of like stuff around about earlier. It's like it's just really fun. The sort of like interweaving, almost like puzzle itself of that storyline is, and how everything is connected but nothing is connected, sort of thing. So yeah, I think those two are probably the top ones. But I don't know, like I love all of them really. I say all of them. I don't really care for sea slugs, but maybe that's just because of how I went in RuneScape. Maybe we can do a better job.
I'm sure, yeah, maybe we could, maybe we could. We shall see. Again, there's so many potentials with quests, either existing storylines or brand new ones that it's going to be interesting to see all the future quests we bring out. All right, Gibraltar87 asked, "What did the team think of the quest backport poll, which was circulated a month ago? Was there much support for it?" So this was thanks to ModEd. Brilliant little piece he wrote in the
This
February
was
Gazette.
yeah. We've closed a poll now, haven't we? So we've got all the results. I've got a big list, big download of all the like all the free text entering. It was like, how many was it? There was about 4,000 respondents, and like a good like 500 or so of them put stuff in that free text box. And we've got to do this properly. So all of them are getting read. I've had a good look through them all already, and I guess just sort of generally like. Yeah, when it comes to quest backporting, very very strong support. Like I'd say very like super strong actually. Really like looking at it. I think it was, I can't remember how many quests it was, like around 10-ish quests that we pitched as the ones that we think would be most suitable. All of them are actually super popular. Unsurprisingly, the most popular by far was While Gothic Sleeps, but all the others were still pretty high up there as well. And then beyond that, like from the like free text entry, like the main thing that sort of been able to gather so far is that generally people are in support of quest backporting and backporting in general, as long as it is on a case by case basis. A lot of stuff connected to like what we were on about earlier, like gods and stuff. Generally, it seemed like there was a strong consensus, which I'm quite happy about, because it means I'm not completely like going down the wrong path with like the stuff I'm like planning and doing. Is that generally the consensus is that gods should stay off Gillinor and like out of the storyline in old school, and that there's quite a bit of caution, like, oh, if we start doing quest backporting, is it going to lead to that? So are we automatically then going down the same paths that RuneScape did? But we shouldn't do if we do go ahead with these quest backports, because like as discussed, right, we specifically chose those ones that we pitched like for a reason. We like evaluated them for various things, like not just the quality of like the quest in general, but also like how it would fit in with what we want to do, like story wise in old school. And I guess on that note, there's a reason why some quests weren't in there. Like there's some fantastic quests, like we didn't include Template Sanderson or Ritual of a Majorat in that survey, and that's not because they're not fantastic quests, was it because storyline wise, a straight backport of those would start to conflict with our own plans, and would start to take us a little bit too close towards the Return of the Gods. So yeah, I guess there's a quite a long answer there. But yeah, TLDR, like lots of support, but with like a few things to consider, which thankfully we were already considering. So hopefully we're all on the same page on this one. Once like fully dug into results. I think it might be quite nice to do a piece in like in a future gazette and actually share them. Like there's nothing particularly about the survey that would need to be kept secret, so may as well like let people see like exactly what the rest of the community are thinking. And I guess the only other thing to like say at this point is it's mentioned in the survey, but to reiterate, like this is not something that we are actively like doing at the moment. It's sort of like the very early stage of like getting some feelers out and seeing how people would feel about this kind of idea. So even if tomorrow we decided to greenlight this sort of thing, we're still talking like it's not something that's going to happen this year. Maybe like not even like until the end of next year, and that was if we sort of like decided straight away we want to do this. So don't expect to see anything immediate from any of this stuff. It's more just like thinking long term, like how we take these storylines forward.
Yeah, and just touch on what Ed was saying earlier. It's definitely important for us to stand by ourselves as old school is now. Like, lots of things have separated the two games, and we feel like we like where we are realistically, and it will be I suppose a new take on things as well, which is what old school is all about. A new old take on things. Cool. All right. Boogie the Hedgehog asked, is there any specific part of RS3 lore the OS team is looking to avoid repeating? So I suppose we sort of touched on it already, but is there anything else?
Yeah, I think we've accidentally answered this question a few times, but I'll reiterate again because I do like reiterating this point because in case people haven't guessed yet, I feel very strongly on this one. It's the death of Guthix, it's the return of the gods and the elder gods. That's what we don't want to repeat. So I think in general, like I guess it sort of comes back into the backporting stuff we were just talking about. Like a lot of the stuff that happened up until I think it was like the end of 2011 story-wise. Most of that is like quite happy to include at least bits of that in Old School on the whole. But once you start to get beyond that, not so much. But yeah, that sort of like that definitive cutoff is the gods returning.
Cool, awesome. Thank you, Ed. All right. Then we have Gibraltar's again. All right. Will we ever see a major recurring villain in Old School? RS3 had Sliske, who featured in many Men of War quests. Will we get our own version of Sliske, considering he was foreshadowed by Ashelot Reese with the next release? Like I've pitched before that we should, the Sandwich Lady has ulterior motives. There's control of a lot of underbelly back, very dark activities, but I think that.
Oh, this is it. This is where it begins. The stuff I was on about earlier of everyone's a Marjarat. That's it. You've said it now. It's gonna be Sandwich Lady confirmed Marjarat. I guess the answer to this question is like yes and no. Like I don't think Old School needs one singular major recurring villain. Like one of the beauties of Old School is that it doesn't have one single central storyline. Like it has loads. Like when you look, a lot of games sort of have like their main storyline, which sort of like where the most of the focus is put, and then side storylines, which often are still good, but maybe sort of have a lesser focus, sort of like lower budget. Like I think we have this wonderful and something that's quite mostly unique compared to a lot of other games, is that we have a lot of storylines and we treat all of them with the same sort of like I guess respect. Like we almost treat all of them like they're all main storylines. Like none of them will sort of like come second to any of the others really. Like yeah, some of them sort of like a higher level, some of them have more quests, and obviously in particular like some of them people are more fond of, like Margaret and stuff like that. But on the whole, all of them they all have their place and like that sort of thing, and all of them have, well, I say all of them, most of them have villains. Most of them are reoccurring villains, and I think we're going to do a lot more of a lot of those villain characters over the coming years. So yes, we'll see major recurring villains. I don't think we'll see a single one. I think we've got way too many fun villain characters to ever go with just one. And as for Sliske, I mean, we've talked about him a little bit already, but who knows? Maybe he is the Sandwich Lady.
maybe he is. All right, reality. Quite a chunky question. But here we go. All right. Is there any desire to expand on the Tuscal lore in the future? The Elder Gods have been very scarce in OSRS lore, but with the mention of the Jazz in the Temple of the Eye quest, it brings to question if they will start making their way onto the game. In RS3, Fall is based on Karamja, commanding Zuck and the Tezek-Ha, but since OSRS already has Inferno and Zuck, maybe she has additional ties to Korend. Be interested to learn more about the Tuscal and the Caliph race, either in how they arrived where they are now, or perhaps they finally reveal the further instructions they've been waiting for.
I guess we kind of answered this one a little bit earlier when we were talking about the Dark Altar and stuff, but the Tassikal, they're very important characters to the Korend storyline, so expect them to keep popping up in that storyline, expect to learn more about them and the stuff they're up to. And then on the other side, sort of the Elder Gods side, so as we've already sort of mentioned before, the Elder Gods, they are canon in Old School, they are a thing that exists in the Old School universe, but they're not something we ever want to explore too deeply because the mystery behind them is more fun. So you see the question of answers like 5 times now about gods returning and whatnot. So for the Tassikal, the focus will mainly be on the Korend side of things.
Cool. All right. Awesome stuff. All right. Lair52 asks, with the shift of focus to big and small quests starting to happen, do you think we'll ever get the Thieves Guild questline from RS3 put into Old School? Buyers and sellers from Tiny Acorns, Lost to Marbles, and a guild of our
own? Probably not. I couldn't say 100%, but this is one of the ones where there's some stuff we'd rather do our own way when it comes to the Thieves Guild. Like, I think we actually mentioned some of this stuff in a Gazette quite a while ago, but we have an internal pitch for a Thieves Guild called the Guild of Shadows that's a bit more narrative driven than a lot of the other guilds we've done, so right now we're probably more likely to go with that rather than going with the Thieves Guild as it was in RuneScape.
Cool. All right. Yeah. The Guild of Shadows, from what I saw, looked quite cool, so we'll leave it at that. Daklos Doif, I hope I've pronounced that right. Apologies if I've butchered it. Will we ever get a bit more Crandor lore? It used to be as huge as Varrock, yet we rarely ever hear about it outside of Dragon Slayer.
Nothing planned at the moment, but it seems an obvious one to include if/when we do more with sort of like 4th age and 5th age storytelling and more dragon stuff. So not at the moment, but no reason why we couldn't one day.
Cool. All right. Mr. Lucky Time Owl, I really hope that the Red Axe storyline gets finished eventually. Are there any plans on finishing the storyline, or at least expanding it?
So this is one of the ones that was included in the survey that we mentioned earlier. So where this storyline goes will probably depend on what we decide to do with the results of said survey. There was actually the next 2 quests in that storyline. We were both on the survey, both what we called Forgiveness of a Chaos Dwarf and King of the Dwarves. We're relatively happy with the quality of both of those and where they fit in Old School, maybe with a few tweaks here and there. So quite possibly we might end up choosing to go ahead with both of those. If we did, that would still leave us with one more quest after, which we'd want to do our own take on, because the last quest in RuneScape, Birthright of the Dwarves, sort of, I think came after the gods had returned, and it started to allude some of that stuff, so we'd want to go in a different direction. So yeah, I guess this one's up in the air at the moment. There's no immediate plans. We do definitely want to finish this storyline. We want to finish all storylines. So going, what I was mentioning earlier about how in many ways none is more important or less important than the others. They all deserve to get their finale at some point. And yeah, as for when this one happens, it'll depend on what we decide to do following on from that backporting survey. So yeah, nothing immediate, but hopefully one day.
All right, thank you, Ed. All right, the next 3 questions have been titled The World of Gillinor, so we'll see what these have in store. Spine Welder asks, the Shazian crypts were built long before the founding of Korend, yet have Zerakian symbolism are all around. Why is that? Is Xeric the reason for the tomb being overrun with undead? And what of the bloody tomb found collapsed in the floor across Kamora's tomb? Was that the tomb of King Shazian VII?
So the crypts, yeah, they were built like very long time ago. Like they actually, yeah, pre-exist Koren and most of Shazian itself, but they've been like expanded on over time. So like different parts of the tomb are from different eras, and maybe there's parts of the tomb we haven't even seen yet. So yeah, that's why there's like Zerkian stuff in there. It came later. And as for the tomb being overrun, yeah, it probably is connected to all those symbols around, and that bloody tomb collapsed into the floor. But I'm not going to say any more than that, am I? Because that would be a spoiler.
No spoilies, please. No spoilies. All right. Zach Flame asked, we know about multiple canon, yet unreleased areas in the world originally designed by the player base. The Avium, Savannah, Tepestus, Civata Ilia Fortis, to name a few. One particular uncharted region has been a hot topic amongst map makers, yet has not been confirmed by any official source to be canonized. Can you give us confirmation that the settlement of Arburnvale exists on Gillinor? Or Auburn Is that how you pronounce it? I'm guessing Auburn
Vale, I think.
Yeah.
I can't give any confirmation because I mean nothing's canon until it goes in game. Like, I could say something on this stream, and then tonight I could go, you know what, change my mind. That law's a bit crap, to be honest. So
I feel like you do that out of spite anyway, just to...
Nothing's ever like 100% confirmed, but one of the things with Valamor is that we've been very keen to like draw on, like there's been so much support and like enthusiasm from players when it comes to Valamor and like the drawing maps and stuff, and especially after obviously like a lot of dissatisfaction with the original like Koren release. So you know, that's why we've pulled so many names from the player suggestions, and there is currently in the current Valamor pitch, which is by no means final and by no means canon anyway yet, there is currently an Auburn Vale. It is not. It is a little bit different story-wise to I think what any of the player suggestions have been, but there is a settlement with that name currently.
Okay, interesting stuff. All right. Saito's Cosplay asked, is the Scar ever going to be expanded upon further? And even more, are we, the players, ever going to be able to go there?
Yeah. nice and straightforward. Yes, yes, that is one of the things from Temple of the Eye that we intend to explore further. When, how, and why? Who could say? Maybe we'll see if Purston survived after all. Who knows?
Interesting stuff. All right, we've got a couple of questions. I'm hoping we can get through these before the end of the stream. I think we've got about 4 or 5 left. All right, so let's kick this off. What is the Cerosian symbol in the snowy area west of Wintertodd? Is this hinting at some Cerosian involvement in Kurend? It's been theorized that the symbol is Scotis. I can never pronounce this name. Scotizos. There we go. Point of arrival after he took the Dark Water for Karamja, hinting he was never a Zambarakian.
So here's the thing. You know, we sit here and I answer all these questions like with such confidence. Like, wow, this guy really knows what he's on about. Like, you know, he knows all this lore. I have no idea. No idea. Mod West put that symbol there, and I don't actually know what it's for. Like, so I don't actually have an answer. It's just some mysterious. The great thing is like Mod West, like he loves to throw little things in that sometimes have huge deep meaning, and sometimes are just complete and utter trolls. And you never know which is which, and I don't actually know which it is for this one. Like I don't know if he's trolling us or what he's planning with that one. So yeah, I don't actually have an answer, unfortunately. As for the theory, like Scatizo's point of arrival, maybe. I don't know. How would Scatizo get there? Would he take a ship? Would he be able to teleport? I don't know. These are like the deep questions now. Do demons use ships? Never really thought about it before.
Well, gnome glider, is there a demon-sized gnome glider he could take possibly? um, I imagine maybe Mod West has his own plans for that. Maybe, who knows? Maybe. All right, old man Ostentato says a lesser question concerning the lesser gods of the Menethite pantheon. One point of you guys are really making this difficult for me. Like, one point of divergence between the law of OSRS and RS3 is the associations given to these lesser gods. For example, Krondis being revised to be the patron of modesty and resourcefulness in RS3, while still being the protector deity of sensory pleasure in OSRS. Will the lesser gods be making an appearance in Beneath Cursed Sands, and if so, will they be reinterpreted in a similar way?
So, earlier we talked about the unfortunate plot holes that existed in Rune Mysteries and how they needed addressing, and thankfully, I think as I was saying before, like there's not actually too much of that in game, thankfully, because a lot of it you can just sort of put down to like different interpretations. But another area, like story-wise, is unfortunately just, let's be honest, an absolute mess. Is the Menethite pantheon and the desert lore. There's just so much of it that's just constantly contradicting other parts of it. So we are, similar to what we did with Rune Mysteries, we are going to do a little bit of housekeeping on that stuff when we launch Beneath Cursed Sands later this month, which is, for anyone not aware, the 27th, is it? 27th of April, so just a few weeks away now. So yeah, we are gonna like try and address some of that. One of the nice things about it being stuff about like gods and that sort of thing is that we can do a bit more of what I was saying before, of like, oh, different people have different interpretations. So with there'll be like lots of new dialogue added with Beneath Cursed Sands, not just for the quest itself, but also we're adding lots of new dialogue to some of the people like in and around Sophanum and stuff. We're gonna like do a little bit of that. So we've added some dialogue about like different interpretations of what the lesser gods represent, and like how there's, for Cronus in particular, how some believe her to be represented like modesty and resourcefulness, but others still believe her to be sensory pleasure. So like that it's both, depending on your perspective, but one is probably more true than the other, which won't directly get answered in Beneath Cursed Sands. So we lean a lot more heavily towards modesty and resourcefulness, but with the Tombs of a Mascot, that's when it will like become a bit more clear which one is actually the truth and which one is incorrect interpretation.
Awesome stuff. All right, so yeah, you can look forward to that in a couple weeks' time. Right, one last question before we wrap up stream today. This is from new account XYZ. Is Zenaris on the moon in old school RuneScape? There's only one piece of in-game lore that points that way, and I was wondering if it's canonically so.
Yep. The moon is called Zenaris, and the city there is also called Zenaris. Also, I know you said last question, but I think we should talk about question 31. I know it's a long one, but there's some exciting stuff for this one.
All right, production. Are we allowed to talk about one last question?
Can we quickly fit just a little bit of talk about dragons in?
All right, let's go. All right, last question.
You guys, you're too nice.
All right, another one from Spine Wilder, and the last question of the stream. During Dragon Slayer 2, Zorgoth perceived the player character as someone who was a close friend of Robert the Strong in their past life. I see you brought your friend with you. I'm surprised to see you here after all this time. Curious. It is only one line, and you're immediately interrupted by Dallas before you can get any sort of clarification. Who was Zorgoth referring to when he spoke to you? Will we ever get an answer in a future quest?
Zorgoth was referring to the player. He did not make any mistake there. He recognized the player. As for what that means, answering a future quest, like not a quest that is planned for any time soon. There's a lot of other stuff we want to do first, but Dragon Slayer 2 was never intended to be a finale. There was always plans for more Dragonkin after that, and there's other hints in that quest. In fact, in that very room where you meet Zorgoth, as to, like that it's not over yet.
Oh, okay, interesting. I can see why you wanted to to speak to that question, Ed. All right.
It was such a fun thing to like throw those teas in Dragon Slayer 2. And up until now, what was it, like 4 years later? No one's actually asked me about them. So I had to make sure we got an answer in for that one, because no one's really. People speculate so much about the Marjorat, and there's a few fun things we include in Dragon Slayer 2 that, personally, and not that I'm biased or anything, but personally, I don't think there's been anywhere near enough speculation yet on some of the things that happened in Dragon Slayer 2.
Well, there you go. Hit Mod Ed up on Twitter. Blast him with your questions. Maybe he will answer them, maybe he won't. All right. Well, thank you, Ed.
Won't.
All right, thank you very much, Ed. We'll quickly go over the announcement before we wrap up stream. Exclamation mark game update. There is no game update this week, as our team is taking part in our very first game jam, where the team comes together to ideate and work on really cool projects across the world of old school. You can stay tuned for a dedicated live stream about our game jam projects if you're interested. If you check on Twitter under the hashtag OSRS Game Jam, there will be lots of JMods posting some sweet teasers about what they've been working on. Exclamation mark account security. We're committed to leveling up our account security and services over the next year. Find a helpful summary recap of the account security stream written up in a blog format here. I can see Mod Druid anxiously looking at me with a sword, so I'm going to speed this up. Exclamation mark board game. A RuneScape board game is being launched on Kickstarter. Get ready to master skills, meet your favorite NPCs, and explore the world of Gielinor as we bring RuneScape to the tabletop for the very first time ever. You can sign up and be among the first to hear about this campaign to bring your next favorite board game to life. So I want to say a massive thank you to Ed for coming on. This was a very, very fun live stream. Nice lore one again. I imagine we'll have some more in soon. I want to say thank you to Mod Druid, who's looking over at me with a sword. Okay, I'm gonna finish up. And thank you all to you watching at home or wherever you are. I've been Mod Sani, and we'll see you in the next one.